Hi, this is Amy Hart. Join me every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock on Fox Sports 920 for Sports Talk with Hart. Real talk about sports and the athletes that make it all happen. Remember, it's not the sport, but rather the heart of the player that makes the game. This is not a show just about sports stats. We get down to the heart of the athlete and dish about what makes them the best of the best. On Fox Sports 920. Hi, everyone. This is Amy Hart. Welcome to my edition of Las Vegas Live with Sports Talk with A Hart. We have a fantastic show today. We have Miss Taylor Armstrong from the Beverly Hills Housewives on today, and we are so excited to talk to her about everything that's been going on in her life. She has a new book out titled Hiding from Reality, which is a fantastic book, and just honored to have her on my show. I do want to just touch base real quickly on a couple amazing things that are going on in sports. First of all, congratulations to my Ohio State Buckeyes for beating Cincinnati. It's been incredible. March Madness has been so exciting. I was thrilled to hear that 4 of my Ohio teams made it to the Sweet 16. That is sweet indeed. So congratulations to all the hard work, and we're excited to see how that all turns out. So it is official now, folks. As you guys know, I am from Denver as well, and Peyton Manning has decided to take his talents, to borrow the phrase from LeBron James, to the mile-high city of Denver. And even though at times it appears to take on a circus-like atmosphere, can you say Peyton Palooza, with Manning jetting around from city to city for interviews and workouts, in the end, things did appear to be handled about as well as they could be expected. I mean, after all, this is in no way an ordinary NFL free agent. This was Peyton Manning, the most famous free agent in history of National Football League. Bigger than Reggie White, bigger than Deion Sanders. Just don't tell him that. And yes, bigger than Brett Favre. So Peyton has made his choice, signing a 5-year, $96 million contract, a price that the Broncos were happy to pay because if he indeed, as he healthy and as he says, he is the best. The fans in Denver could well have visions of Super Bowl dancing in their heads to come Christmas time. Oh, I wish I was back in Denver. What a great year it's going to be. And what about poor Tim Tebow? Well, it sure didn't take long for him to land somewhere else. But New York City, Broadway Timmy. Well, won't this be interesting? One thing is certain, the Jets really wanted Tebow, taking all of about 3 days after Manning joined the Broncos to trade for him. That tells me that the Jets saw something this past season in Tebow that they are not fully certain their current starter, Mark Sanchez, possesses, which is confusing to me because he's a fantastic quarterback. Qualities such as leadership, toughness, and those wobbly passes may be what made them make their decision. So Godspeed and good luck to both Peyton Manning and Tim Tebow as they embark on the latest chapters of their careers, one of which has been stored that will continue at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Well, with Tim Tebow, one really never knows, right? Right. Okay, so let's get on with the show. I am going to bring Miss Taylor Armstrong on, and we're going to talk about a bunch of things in her life. Taylor, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's interesting that you talked about Peyton Manning and Tim Tebow right off the bat because they are both wonderful examples of the kind of leaders that I think we need in sports figures to be advocates for young men to grow up and be great guys. They're both just really high-quality men that take great care of women and are protectors and are kind and caring, and I really have a lot of respect for both of them. So it is a trade, but I think they're trading two good quality human beings as well as football players.
Absolutely, Taylor, and that's so funny that you were saying that because I always talk about in my show like the heart of the player, and I'm really proud of some of these athletes that are showing up and being like strong, really good men, and it's exciting to me to see that as well.
Absolutely. There are a lot of them out there, but those two really do stand out as being really great quality individuals. And so it's cool that they're also such great athletes, because I think there are a lot of people out there that could use leaders that they admire in every way, and they're doing a great example for young people. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. Okay, so let's just say when we first met last year at Liquid Pool Party, which I had so much fun with you, you've definitely been very busy. The second season of The Housewives has wrapped and aired, and the passing of your husband, which my deepest condolence. I'm very sorry to hear that. And now your amazing book, Hiding from Reality. And oh, Taylor, what a fantastic book.
Thank you. It was, it was a story that it starts at a very young age for me, and having domestic violence in my house and as a small child, and then it's just a lot about my journey and what it's like for a girl who grows up without the right amount of self-esteem and confidence and value. And I wanted to tell this story because I know there are a lot of young women out there, and women my age, that don't have enough self-esteem to stand up for themselves or know when they're not being valued in the way that they should. And maybe by reading my story, somebody might take a different turn than I did, and hopefully end up with a better result.
Absolutely, and it was an incredible book, and really dug deep. Now, I noticed something this last season at Beverly Hills Housewives. It seemed as though you guys were closer, and I know a lot of things have happened, but did you feel like you had more of a bond with them this season?
In season 1 of the show, when I watched the season, and this really goes back to the title of the book, I really was just trying to hide what was going on in my life from the cameras and from everyone around me. And when I watched the season, I was like, who is that girl? Like, I didn't even like me. I just seemed like a shell of who I knew I really was on the inside. And I was doing so much to try and navigate with the cameras and my life and keeping everything behind closed doors. And I know that my friends were struggling with it as well, because it was common knowledge that things were not exactly as they seemed in my relationship. And so I think that even though we had a really tumultuous season, and I had obviously a big breakdown, but I think that it all being out on the table made it a little easier for everyone in some way to be closer and to really show the bond that we have, because it was all coming out.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, and that's really hard when you're in the spotlight and you're on TV and you're trying to deal with all these emotions and feelings.
Absolutely. And our show is real, and people ask a lot. And if it weren't real, trust me, I would not have been. That's not how I would have chosen to come across, like a crazy person.
Well, you know what, you're dealing with a lot, and I really enjoyed watching. I think you're very authentic and you're real, and it's something that a lot of people strive to be. So I really appreciated everything that you had, gone through. Now, do you find yourself receiving more positive feedback from your fans that had similar situations after reading the book?
Yeah, I do. I get letters from all over the world, and I mean, New Zealand, India, you name it. And although I so appreciate people writing me, the unfortunate thing is the majority of the letters I receive, or emails I should say, are people telling me that they're either in an unhealthy situation or have been, and they're looking for guidance or help, and that makes me sad to know there are so many people out there that are struggling, and some of the letters are truly heartbreaking, and I wish there was some way I could reach across the world and help everyone, but I just try to point them in the right direction. And for your listeners here in the United States, 1-800-799-SAFE is the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they have a list of resources in every state that people can go to if they're in need of getting out, and also obviously 911 if you're in any form of danger is the first line of defense. But yeah, I do. I get a lot of letters, and people who have read my book that have been touched by it. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely. Now, how are you and your beautiful little girl Kennedy doing now?
Oh, Kennedy is doing beautifully. She's just a really happy, well-adjusted little girl with tons of friends and a lot of personality. She's 6 now, and she lost her first tooth a couple of days ago, so that's been a big deal around here. I got to play Tooth Fairy for the first time.
Aw.
So, just little milestones that she goes through, and really, although those moments are beautiful and exciting for us, in the back of my mind, it's always, gosh, I wish her dad were here to know that she lost her first tooth. So they're a little bittersweet for me from time to time because I know that he's going to miss all those milestones in her life. But I try to just enjoy them and be in the moment and not focus on that as much.
Absolutely. Well, there's many reasons I wanted to have you on the show, but one of the reasons I asked you on today's show is because, as you know, domestic violence is a global issue. And in the sports realm, you've seen cases like that of former MLB Manny Ramirez for the NFLers, Lawrence Phillips, like Mark Fields. And there are also tons of cases concerning athletes. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed and something that needs to be talked about.
Absolutely. And that really goes back to, I love that Peyton Manning and Tim Tebow have been in the spotlight so much lately because those are the kinds of guys that they have the world at their feet and they're making, really good, positive influence on young people. And I just feel like these athletes, their fan bases are enormous. And for them to be just good, solid guys, that's probably some of the best role modeling that young people are going to be getting because, with the divorce rate in this country, our family structures are not always as we would like for them to be. But these kids are looking up to athletes just like they always have, but to have really positive influences. I mean, even John Jones, who's a UFC light heavyweight fighter, this is a guy who is a mixed martial arts master who could take down anybody he wanted to,
right.
But he's a good human being who would never harm anyone outside of the ring. And I think those guys are just making a huge difference.
I agree with you 100%. Do you think domestic violence stems from childhood issues?
Well, statistically, children of domestic violence families, for instance, I obviously was a child of in a domestic violence household, and as was my husband.
Right.
And men who grow up in a house where they've witnessed domestic violence have a higher rate of becoming abusers, absolutely. And women, I should say, who have experienced it as children are more likely to be victims. And I think that really goes to the whole self-esteem piece. When I was growing up, and as you read in my story, I always had to have a boyfriend. I just didn't feel enough self-confidence to be alone. I was trying to fill that void in my life of not growing up with a father. And I know that that's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards the most emotionally unavailable guys out there. And it was something that I wish I would have recognized earlier on. When I started going through therapy and journaling, I started looking at my relationship patterns in my journals throughout my younger years and realizing I was in these unhealthy relationships all along. Just because my husband came into it broken, I came into it broken. We were just broken together.
Right.
It wasn't his fault or my fault. We just fit together in a very unhealthy way.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's very brave of you to go to the depth with all of your personal insecurities because everybody has these inside. And I mean, being a star on a reality television already creates a level of vulnerability and exposure. And then to write a book that digs deeper into these issues, it's just extremely brave of you. So,
well, thank you. I hope that it makes a difference in someone's life. And instead of making the 1 million mistakes I've made, they'll make maybe 999,000, and it'll make a difference in their life.
Absolutely, and that's what it's about. I mean, you're talking about role models for athletes, but you're a role model for a lot of young women and women out there that are going through the same thing and that are trying to find the strength within inside. So that's what I really can appreciate. In 2010, Harvard's Journal of Sports and Entertainment Law, Bethany Withers pointed to evidence that professional athletes are not punished by the leagues, teams, or criminal justice systems as harshly as consistently as their general public counterparts. Do you agree with that? I mean, do you feel like because they're in the spotlight and they are, so well liked that they don't get the justice that they really do deserve?
Well, I think the biggest case in my life that I recall that is sort of in the same realm of what I've dealt with is the Nicole Brown Simpson case.
Yeah.
And OJ was just so beloved, and I think that in the beginning, people were rallying behind him. They didn't want to see an American hero fall. They didn't want to believe that he was capable of doing the things that he allegedly did. And when you see photos of her face just beaten so horribly, I think, how is that possible that anyone would not just say this is completely wrong? But I do think it's hard for people to believe that their heroes have flaws.
I agree. And now, do you think that there is something about having a certain level of power and control that fosters violence? I mean, because you've done so much, research and work on, finding out the core of it.
Right. I think a lot of it is based on insecurity. I think that people who truly are powerful and people who really are in control don't do things like this. I mean, you look at even the gentleman we've talked about today in the sports world. I mean, looking back, I remember, and this is going to date me a little, but Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 no-hitter. I mean, he's an amazing athlete and a gentleman and peaceful, and so it doesn't mean that because you're powerful you have to wield power on people that are weaker than you. And I think people who are truly powerful on the inside do the exact opposite. They're protectors.
I agree as well. I think that if you have that strength and courage and that confidence inside, then you don't really need to bring anybody else down. It's about bringing other people up, encouraging them.
Absolutely, and I think that it stems far more from insecurity. I mean, there's definitely some people. My husband had a chemical imbalance, and he just had real rage problems throughout the majority of his life, and that was something that he just couldn't seem to get under control, even in the end with medication. And some people just really need to address that early on. If you're someone who has a tendency to really get angry from, like, your thermostat just isn't right. You get angry disproportionately to the event that's occurred. Those are things that you can address, and they have great anger management programs out there that can help people. And but I think that you know who you are if you're someone who has those really ragey type moments.
Right. Now, in your book, specifically Chapter 7, page 136, you stated, I've honestly come to believe that reality TV does nothing more than amplify who we are, both good and bad. Can you explain that to our listeners and why you believe this, and if it is still beneficial for you to participate in the show? Kind of give us some feedback.
Yeah. Well, having the cameras there, for some reason, if you're going to cry, you just cry more. I can't even explain it. And I've talked to other people who've done reality before. If you're, whatever it is, it just seems to sort of become a little more amplified is the word that I would use. But it's just they follow us through our lives, and we are on camera for so long that you really just are who you are, as horrible as that sounds, considering the mess I was this year. But it is intense, and for some reason you just are a bigger version of yourself in some ways. But I think that there's power in reality, in that people get to see what it's like to live our lives, like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Right.
And that it doesn't matter what zip code you live in. These are just human beings who are having a human experience, and we're going through tough times and we're going through good times, and we're like a family, these 6 of us. We really love each other, and we're so invested in one another emotionally that's why we get so upset, and we really hold each other accountable for our actions and the good and the bad things that we're doing. And so it's sort of like having people there to sort of check up on you.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean, I guess, by I just saw more closeness. I felt like because of all the experiences you guys have gone through, it'll be a bond that you will have for a lifetime with these ladies.
Absolutely. I mean, there are only 5 other women who know what it's been like to be on this journey, and, that's the Housewives. And so we definitely have sort of an underlying, we've kind of been through it together experience that will never go away.
Okay, so now I've learned that so many women try to change these men and finding and hiding from the reality. There are two words that reigned throughout the story to me. The two words were change and control. And in chapter 2, page 29, you said, without realizing it, by attaching myself to someone who was controlling, I ensured that at some point they would control me. Later in the book, in the chapter 4, page 62, you said about Russell, I believe that if I could just get through to him, I could change him. I mean, do you believe that now? And that if you had no control over the situation itself, that you cannot bring about the change you wanted to see?
I think that hope is the thing that we hold on to in love in general. You know, hope is one of the very last things to go. And you get into a relationship where someone starts to control you. Maybe they're just going through your cell phone, seeing who you've been talking to, reading your email, little things like that that you think, well, okay, you know, I don't care. There's nothing on my phone that I care about. Maybe that's not a big deal. And then it just escalates and you kind of push it aside and push it aside. I mean, as you know, my husband, I found recording devices, one in particular under my desk one day very early on where he had been recording me. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously a very big red flag to a healthy person. But when I asked him about it, he said, I'm just trying to get to know you. And I thought, oh, okay. And in my mind, somehow I justified that. And I think that letting go of that control little by little by little is how things escalate. And people who are abusers, they don't ask you on a date and then punch you in the face. You know, it's a little control, a little name calling, a little paranoid type behavior, and it just is a slow burn. So one day you wake up and you think, how did I get here? Like, how did that just happen? And you don't take the time along the way, or you want to believe that it's not really happening as things are slowly getting worse and worse. And so I think you have the hope that, he went through my phone. That's no big deal. You know, he recorded me. And it sounds ridiculous now, even to me when I look back. But as each thing happened, I wanted to be in the relationship. And I thought if I just keep loving him and let him go through my phone when he wants, let him record me, he's going to see that there's nothing going on and he'll stop. He'll start to trust me. But that's not how it works. It just escalates and gets worse. And then you're being followed, and then you're being called names, and from there, you're getting hit.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask you, do you believe abuse is a form of addiction? I do, because I think it's, as it gets worse, he keeps doing other things to try to control you. It is almost an addiction.
It is, and very common in the letters that I get and also in talking with other women, and something I experience is you're so often told, you make me do this. You make me so mad when you do this behavior. When you laugh that loud in public, it embarrasses me, so you make me do this to you.
Yeah.
And you start to take those things on little by little and adjust your behavior, and that's part of the control piece. And you think, okay, I'll never laugh that loud again, then we'll never have this happen. And that's wrong, because it'll never be right. Your dress will be too short, your dress will be too long. You'll laugh too loud, you won't laugh enough. It will never be okay. There'll always be a reason that someone lashes out at you when they have these types of personalities.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing, and I'm going to ask you your opinion on this. Why do you think women feel the need to protect their abusers when they are no longer providing the protection the victim once craved? What is that about?
Yeah. For me, in my situation, my husband would tell me, if I go to jail, or prison, he would say, you and Kennedy, my daughter, will be living on the street. Well, you'll have no income. I won't pay you child support. And he would say, if you call the police and say that I hit you, I will say that you hit me, and I'll put you in jail. And not having had, I guess, the healthy mind to realize that probably wouldn't have worked, it's scary.
Yeah.
And he would say, I'll put you in jail, then I'll take Kennedy, your daughter, away from you, And, all these things that are going through your mind. If I go to prison, think how humiliating it's going to be for Kennedy at school, for her friends to know that her dad's in jail. All of these things seem really logical when you're in that unhealthy relationship. And also, I grew up without a dad, so I had a belief in the back of my mind all the time that a lot of my self-esteem issues came from not having a father growing up. So also I thought, if I can just keep the abuse away from Kennedy, because he was never abusive to her and she never saw him hit me, that I can keep that part of her life really stable, and that'll help her to be different than I was. And that was wrong of me, because what I realize now that he's gone, and in working with Kennedy in therapy, is that she felt a lot of what was going on. She definitely heard yelling when I didn't know she heard it, and she has memories of her father not being kind to me, and that's something that I'm really going to have to work hard to change, because as I say in the beginning of the book, the dedication is that the cycle has to stop with her. I won't allow this to continue in my family.
Right. And I mean, going through all of this, Taylor, I mean, you must have felt such fear, because, he was constantly threatening you. And so I'm sure that Kennedy felt, she could feel your nervousness and the way that you were feeling inside. So that had to be so difficult.
Absolutely, and I think that children, as people always say, are so much more perceptive than we give them credit for. I mean, I remember being just in Kennedy's playroom and coloring with her, or when in trying to just do regular activities with her. And although I was physically present, mentally my tapes were replaying from the night before or the day before, or the fear of what the next day would bring. And I know that my anxiety kept me from really being in the moment with her. I have so many regrets that the first 5 years of her life, I was just a basket of nerves on the inside, and I didn't really get to be present with her. And I'm so thankful now that when I'm with her and I've got a pink crayon in my hand and I'm coloring Hello Kitty, I'm focused on Kennedy and Hello Kitty and what we're doing, and I get to really be there and be with her and be present.
That's amazing. And, I think now, after your book being out and just the death of your husband and everything you've gone through, have your close friends learned things about you that they didn't know? How have you changed, is what I want to say, going through all of this?
Well, embarrassingly so. For the first time in my life, I'm really happy being alone. I'm really happy not having, not needing someone to complete me. I've been in therapy for a year now, and I'm feeling really self-confident, and I just am who I am, and I'm not putting on a facade for the rest of the world or the rest of Beverly Hills anymore. I'm just being who I am, and I'm wearing what I want to wear, and sometimes not putting makeup on when I don't want to. And
you're
I
beautiful.
just am kind of this is who I am, and people can either like me or not like me, embrace it or not. But I can't live my life for anyone except for my daughter and me now. And it's a really good feeling, and it's a shame that it's taken me 40 years to get there. And I hope that other people out there that are living a life that doesn't feel authentic to them will take the steps to live authentically, because it's like living in peace.
Absolutely. And you are a role model. Now, Taylor, tell us where we can find your book, where we can find you.
Well, I have my website, TaylorArmstrong.com. There is a page about my book, and you can click through the links there. But my book's at Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon. It's available on iTunes. So it's available pretty much everywhere, I think.
Yes.
And I really appreciate everyone and their support. I'm also on Twitter at Taylor Armstrong. And you can email me through my website as well on my contact page if you have things that you want to share or questions for me, and I do my very best to answer.
Wonderful. Well, Taylor, I wish you so much happiness and success in your bright future, and I think it's just such an honor to have a person really be so authentic as you. So thank you so much. And we want to thank you for being on the show tonight. Everybody go out and get Taylor's book, Hiding from Reality. And hang tight, Taylor. If you can hang on the line just a minute, I want to exchange information with you. But thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing.
Okay, absolutely. All right, everybody, this is Amy Hart coming to you live with Sports Talk with Hart and my special edition of Las Vegas Live. Had a fantastic show, and all of you out there, if you're not living the life that you want to be living, remember, someone like Taylor is a wonderful role model to help you be really true to yourself, and you get to live out your dreams, and don't forget that. This is Amy Hart saying have a beautiful day,